we will be using a Pecha Kucha program today, which I've never heard of that until this conference. But what it is, it's an automated program that advances the slides. So each slide has a predetermined, it's 30 seconds, and it goes. So we're going to stay on time for sure. I've never seen this before, so it could be kind of fun. So first up from VectorScient is Veda and Sarush.
So I guess the time starts now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Veda Konduru, founder and CEO of VectorScient.
Hi, my name is Suresh Chagant, founder and advisor at VectorScient.
So VectorScient, many of you have come to our booth. So it is a predictive consumer insights for marketers in e-commerce and retail businesses run their personalized campaigns with our artificial intelligence technologies. So this helps them know who the consumer is, who to target, at what time, the product recommendations, promotion recommendations. So here, the high-level concept, basically, no, we don't capture the data because I've heard a lot of questions around that. So our client has already a lot of humongous data about their consumer, what they're doing, their interactions are captured in various systems. So we capture that, we integrate them one-to-one, and we provide the insights. So here is how we do it. So at the data level, they are captured in a variety of systems. So we integrate one-to-one natively and link them up one-to-one using our fuzzy matching algorithms. And we use our machine learning algorithms to do the deep data mining and give the insights of who to target, the hyper-targeting, where the marketers can then take the message to either email marketing or direct mail marketing, anything from there on. So in a nutshell, basically our client will know about their consumer in detail, who will likely buy, what products they interest them, what promotions interest them, and then they act by taking that into the marketing messaging, and they gain by caching the every sales opportunity, increased marketing, ROI, and increased customer trust. So that's pretty much, Suresh.
So what does it mean to the market research aspect? So yesterday, brilliant presentation by Ross McLean, the dude, where is your jetpack? Minority Report context and analogy. Market research is an ally. It's not going to replace, artificial intelligence is not going to replace market research. Because there are certain areas where it's an art form. Designing the survey, interpreting survey responses are really art form. And whereas processing all the huge data that is relevant is a science form. So we talk about where machine learning would make difference to market research. We talked about video-based surveys. We talked about complex data types. So those are all the things that you can take advantage of because you have machine learning now at your tips. So it starts from identifying who the right panel is, matching them correctly, and then filtering out the low-quality responses, and then using machine learning along the way to arrive at predictive outcomes and that are reliable and accurate and that make sense to business. So we talked about survey panel. So when you have hundreds of thousands of panelists, who is the right one to pick? And there are panel companies out there. So who is this target audience that you want to survey that are relevant to the kind of problem statement that you want to address? So it starts with matching with the demographics as always, but also based on behaviors, their past survey completion history, whether they're likely to complete the survey or not, whether they're likely to give quality response or not. And then once you get the responses, even within responses, are you sure that you are accounting for the quality, thoughtless submissions, robotic submissions, fraudulent submissions, what have you. So machine learning is the one that can find the patterns and really weed out the low quality responses and keep only the quality responses that matter to the eventual outcome. And then when you go further with good quality responses, you have to see how you have to process the data, taking in advantage of the additional data. So if the survey response is one thing, but if you have to marry that up with other external data, maybe the client has past survey data that is relevant to the current question, like knowledge hound discussion talking about past surveys and how they are relevant. Or other macroeconomic data, customer sentiment. So if you want to marry all that up and then deliver an outcome that is really making sense to the client, machine learning is again the place to be in terms of marrying up all the causal factors and then making what sense.
So going beyond, so this is for tomorrow. So right now, market research stops at giving the recommendations that here is your consumer attributes. Now go do your marketing. So it is a strategic direction to your clients. So we are saying that with VectorScient, you can do a value-added service to your client by influencing their marketing by saying here is the list of marketing messaging that you can do precisely to make it better. So the science behind VectorScient. To the left is big data, because all of what we talked about is the humongous data, the volume, variety. That is a classic big data that we just talked about. And we use machine learning algorithms. I don't have to go deep into the technology side of it, but it's like humans. Like we learn lessons from mistakes and we grow and evolve, but we have emotions, but machine doesn't. That's the only difference. But it learns and it fine-tunes itself. So here, the data science at VectorScient. So though the name says data science, it's an art form is what I would say, because being a technological person, translating the business problem into technological parameters that make sense to your business comes from the doing the art form of this. So the model is not too narrowly or too broadly modeled, because it leads to inaccurate results when it's modeled that way. Why is it extra accurate? Because we take the data comprehensively, not just one slice of it, not just CRM, not just the purchase history, not just website, but all of it. Because the more relevant data that we put into the equation, the better the accurate predictions are, and that leads to, again, the sales. That's what resonates with everyone, right? That's what ultimately it leads to, and reduce the wasted ad spend. So again, at VectorScient, we believe, like many other companies, no one size fits all. Our algorithms are industry specific for e-commerce and retail. And furthermore, every business is unique. So we go by their operating model, what features are very specific to their business. And combining all of that, that yields highly accurate predictions, consumer predictions to our clients. So we'll talk about next how VectorScient is in action.
So when you talk about all the predictions, the question is, how do you make it useful to your business? So this is a snippet of what it matters to marketers. So you can slice and dice, and you can download into Excel or what have you to further understand the analytics. But here we show the visualization is self-service and easy to use, how to really make sense of all the predictive insights that you're getting. So it could be best customers or best survey panelists, whatever. And then the other specific problem that we address is simulation. So a lot of times you have a situation where you have to kind of understand how different parameters matter. What if you change this marketing message a little bit? What if you change the geographical segment a little bit? So those are all the different situations where you need to understand that what if I do a certain thing. So VectorScient again has a simulation capabilities to allow you to experiment and then model different scenarios. And then when you talk about the other vendors in this landscape, you see some big names. We put those because each of those, everyone does visualizations. That's why you see a chart over there where there is a dot in the visualizations bucket to the far left. But really, it matters. What matters is whether a particular product is consuming all that relevant data. Like Veda said, more data, the better. And second thing is, are you having a unified consumer 360-degree view at your fingertips? So unless you link all the data, you're not going to get that.
So the message is basically resonating. We have seen other speakers saying this also. So technology is going to enables us, empowers us. It's not going to replace. So we take all the mundane, process-oriented, data-intensive part of your job and let machine do that best, because that's very effective there. And let us focus on the creative genius so it blooms, and then designing the surveys, interpretation becomes the art. So it's a win-win. So VectorScient it's a twofold for market research. It's a robust platform where you can connect using our APIs to take advantage of our machine learning algorithms. And on the right, you see it's a readily available predictive insights for e-commerce and retail businesses for marketers to run the marketing campaign. So it's both a platform and also a product solution for the businesses. So again, we thank you for your time today. Thank you for your time and attention. It has been a great honor sharing the stage with John Becker today. We really appreciate your time. Please share the feedback of what you feel, and we'll be glad to help you with any questions that you have.
Thank you once again, everyone.
All right, thank you, Suresh and Veda. Next, as I said, Diane from Breinify. We'll do questions at the end.
Hey everyone. So this is my first time coming to this conference and also my first time doing Pecha Kucha style, so bear with me. I don't think I'll be as fluent as these two wonderful people. But hey everyone, my name's Diane. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Breinify. So at Breinify, we are the leading time-driven AI engine for predicting and acting on your customers' highly dynamic interests. If you happen to watch the show Startup Silicon Valley, we were one of the Battlefield finalists at TechCrunch Disrupt this past year. And hopefully today I'll be able to bring you some new concepts and elements that you can bring back to your own companies. So before we get started, I wanted to showcase what time-driven can really mean. Today, with one of our large retailer brands with their physical stores, we actually increased their monthly sale of $600K to about $2 million by using time-driven push text messaging. On the push notification side with apps, we've been able to bring over 8x in user usage, but also in customer spending overall. So we're really affecting the bottom line. So of course, I'm super excited to share with you the topic that I'm covering today, which is temporal logic having a really kind of unexpected but huge impact for actionable insights and intelligent predictions. So before we get started, I wanted to kind of convey the importance of time. It's something that we as humans really understand, right, because we live in it. But for a machine, it's quite tough. But time is really essentially the glue that truly ties every single thing in the world together, but it's not commonly used in user behavior, especially in a world where we're so surrounded by distractions. I mean, personally, I'm an owner of a dog. I'm also running a company. At some points, I try and cook, not well. And of course, I'm also a musician. And as you can see that today, all these different interests and preferences and mindsets and life stages aren't so clear cut. A lot of times they overlap because I'm kind of in two different worlds at the same time. So with the concept of time, you can really see that these stages are really dynamic, fluid, and ever-changing. So now let's get a little bit deeper into the practical use case of what it really means for a machine to truly understand time and what does it actually mean to generate predictions. Traditional machines will actually say, if it rains, you won't go outside, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. If the rain is happening in the morning and the plan of when you plan on going outside was in the afternoon, right? In this case, your plan wouldn't have altered. That also changes with partial overlaps. This temporal approach isn't exactly new. It's been applied in airports for logistics optimization, ground handling, and call centers. So imagine a plane, it can be delayed because of bad weather, it can be rerouted because of events at the destination, and of course, if it comes in a minute late, it screws up the connecting flights and all the operations with it. But unfortunately, the temporal approach isn't as commonly used in market research, consumer insights, and user behavior predictions quite yet, until about 1.5 years ago. Not empty side, I promise there was stuff there. But what we actually went ahead and did was we took the temporal aspect, combined it with user behavior and external data sets like weather, region-specific events, and holidays. And the result of that was really accurate predictions on the individual basis, and then which is automatable into engagements that really affect that bottom line, which is revenue at the end of the day, or can bring some interesting insights. So many of you guys here, I'm sure, all have very deep insights into mobile, and so we all know that mobile is a great data source because it's really consistently tied to one individual. And today, with all the past advances in last year, with more accurate indoor navigations, as well as better battery power and more secure biometrics, the possibilities are really endless. But today I'm going to focus specifically on one of them, which is GPS and location. So 90% of all mobile users actually keep their location services on. So what does that actually mean? It means that it can figure out that me, Diane, is here in Chicago, But more importantly, when we align that to time, we can figure out the whole journey of what happened this morning when I woke up at 5 a.m. in San Francisco and made it here, right? And then now we add the external information like events, and now we can do some inferences that the event is happening at the same time that I am physically here, which means the next level of insights is that my interest could be in market research at this conference. Of course, in addition, we also know that's going to be raining later, which means that there's some user behavior involved, which means I might be interested in a happy hour drink later. Today, 80 to 90%, which you're welcome to join me, but 80 to 90% of all mobile usage are on apps rather than mobile web. So what does that actually mean is that data today, the access and the coverage really goes beyond the sensors and into the social interaction realm, which means richer, better user behavior that can be combined with your additional outside sensor data. So when we combine machine learning and temporal data with this type of user behavior, location, and external data sets, we are able to utilize this to determine something that we call temporal patterns. So a pattern could be common hours that people leave work from a segment perspective, but also down to the individual, such as me leaving work between 6 and 8 compared to the average standard people who leaving between 4 and 6. This really brings it back to our time-driven AI engine. The temporal patterns are really the key to all of our successes that we've done today. So over here, what you see is a really simplified temporal prediction. So by knowing that I leave work usually between 6 and 8 and using location data to figure out my trajectory of how to get home, and knowing that rain might happen on my walk home as I start initiating this walk, it means that it's a great time for predicting what I'm gonna want at that moment. Probably staying dry and warm and maybe hiding out from the rain somewhere, which makes it perfect for engagement for that one specific individual. Of course, there's lots of different ways for engagements through social, video, music, but we focus primarily on push and text. So in push, it's all about reaction rates. What that means is when you get that push, do you actually go into the app and do something with it? Today, across the US, the industry standard is 6%, very low. From a text messaging perspective, it's a new channel that companies have started reaching out to, and we're right at the forefront of it. 80% of it is actually used in customer support and not so much in engagement at the right time. So with our unique approach, by adding temporal logic in there, our reaction rate for our app customers is 84%. We take in 3x for all of our text messaging transactions, and the reason how we're able to do this from the application side is we don't target every single person in a segment, but rather we zone in on the individuals that we know will react. From the research perspective with our partners, we are actually we provide them dynamic segments. So what that means is knowing that you might be in one segment today, but a different one tomorrow, so that you can accurately measure the influences of all of your different data sets. So this is one of the examples that we've shown one of our clients regarding just using external events like holidays and showing that it's the same holiday, but the purchase behavior is so different even across state, even if you narrow it down to the individual stores or even down to individual cities or down to the family units. And you'll see that the growth of it is quite different. Some people purchase the day before, some purchase the day of, but the temporal aspect is really what showcases when this reaction happens. And then on a larger scale, using temporal logic can actually showcase different anomalies or what we call peaks in your data. So we find things that are not so common with your traditional kind of expectations of behavior. So over here with holidays, it's expected sales go up. But now apply this to weather, apply this to events. So knowing that in a specific town, a beer fest will work better for that pizza restaurant, but not anywhere else in the state. And being able to react to that is where the temporal logic really kind of shines. So today, all the major companies like Samsung, Google, and Apple have been acquiring these machine learning and natural language processing startups left and right. And the whole reason is because they want their devices to be inherently just more intelligent. So personally, I think this trend is going to become more apparent this year as you go and work with a lot more of these larger brands. They're going to be focused on working a lot more with use case focused AI startups, but also rolling out their mobile devices with these knowledge in there. So as a startup that works with one of these brands, we are very aware that temporal logic will be one of the next trends, so expect this coming in about a year and a half or two. We will be coming out in devices as well. So I hope that you found temporal predictions to be pretty interesting. I know it's a huge thing for us, and hopefully you were able to take something back for your brand, your customer, or your company, or your market. And I know there's a lot of predictive solutions that's popping up that works with actionable insights and predictive, intelligent decisions. But if you're interested in learning more about what we do at Breinify, or just in general what the temporal space means and how we collect the data, but also how we do the predictions and how can we help you in that sense so you can have it within your own companies, please come find me after, and I'll definitely make some time for all of you.
Okay, so before we toss it to you guys, I just have, because at IBD we cover a lot of IPOs, right? Pre-startups and the IPOs. And so the thing I always ask people that started the company is, where'd you get the idea? And how did it come about? Because you guys both have great experience, like deep experience in the field. And like, how did it happen?
I think it's for Veda to, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity and question, John. Actually, I would let Veda answer this question because it's her idea and her thought and motivation that pulled me as well into the mix.
Okay.
So it's very appropriate that she answers.
So back in 2015, I quit my corporate world because I was feeling that I had energy to do more, but it wasn't satiating enough. So when I quit, I was thinking what next in life, and then the strength, I have statistics in my background, I have computer technology in my background, I worked on sales and demand forecasting. So the next question was, in my corporate experience, I have seen that vendors come in and they expect, or they assume that the client knows everything in terms of giving the problem statement very clearly stated, like a handoff to the vendor, which wasn't the case, because I was becoming the person on the client side, other side of the table, trying to do the fit gap analysis of what the problem statement is, how do you translate that into a technology, and how does it fit? Because no one, so I worked on Hyperion, Demantra on the Oracle e-business suite side of the world, but I had to do a lot of work in giving to the vendor. So I was on the other side of the world. So when I was thinking about this idea of, okay, there is a gap, because big companies like Amazon and who have the muscle to invest in data science, they throw dollars to know the consumer better. But this science doesn't have to stop at big companies alone. It has to come to masses. We wanted to democratize this because with the strengths that we have, we wanted to extend that to businesses of all sizes, do this marketing, know their consumer better, and show the strength, right? So when I talked about the data science as an art, that's where it comes from my own experience that we want to become the advocates of our client and champion what their problems are, less about what we have done and show it into their face. It's about them getting the real value of it. We want to see how this impacts their lives, their businesses, how it grows first before we grow. We grow only because of their growth. So
right.
We are driven by their success. So that's how it all started. We are a startup founded in 2016, April. So we're growing. We're picking up the traction and good progress so far.
That's awesome. And it helps to work on both sides, because I used to work in advertising for 8 years before the corporate side. So it really helped having the agency experience. So you can call out BS when the agencies come in now and pitch different ideas, because I know how it works on that side of things. So Diane, how about you?
Of course. So I was actually working at Apple in the IAD division. And then I worked at Symantec in the e-business group, specifically on integrating the engineering parts for personalization and marketing tools. And what I found at both places is that we worked with extremely static data sets. So knowing that Diane's a student, she would be a student for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but during the summer she could be an intern somewhere else, which means she's actually a young professional. And we couldn't tackle those properly with all the data management platforms we're working with. And so I started going back for a master's, trying to figure out how can we actually predict what users will want next better with some sort of context if we didn't have the data ourselves. And that's when I met my co-founder, who was very temporal focused. So his whole data science background is in time intervals, which is kind of the groupings of the overlaps that you saw in the presentation. And so he came from the airport world. So he was very big on optimization, logistics. And I started talking about kind of the things I was trying to solve, and we realized that people are very similar to airplanes. We tend to have some sort of intent to go somewhere, but something pops up and we get distracted, or bad weather, we decide not to go outside. But then we realized that maybe we could try something new and see if it works. And so we started doing research in this part, published a couple different papers, and realized that the accuracy was just there. I mean, we were beating all the top retail kind of recommendation engines without being a full recommendation engine. We're providing our data and algorithms to test it out, and we were winning. So we decided to officially make it a company, and then we found out from our friends that there was this huge issue in the mobile space with engagements. They had a hard time, and every single engagement was pre-scheduled. So you would say, all females in Chicago gets this promotion at 3 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon. And how that number came about, no one really knew, but they would go with it because they looked at analytics. And so we decided to go for that specific use case, and we've been seeing some good growth from there.
That's really cool. Well, if people are like airplanes, I hope we're all Virgin American, not United. Sorry, Chicago, I know. United's based here. But okay, let's open it up for some questions from the audience. Anyway, there we have one back there.
Hey, so this one's for Diane. On the whole temporal thing, you gave the great example of weather as being kind of a variable that could lead someone to take a different path. Like, what are some of the other big kind of unpredictable or in the moment things that come up that lead to like the diversions from what they might have intended to do?
Events is a big one that we work with our customers. So hyper-localized events in specific regions. So it could be events that you're attending, or it can even be events that's near you that screws up your whole day. Right, so I know in San Francisco we have this big event called Dreamforce that's hosted by Salesforce. And when it happens, whether you're attending or not, if you're in that region of like 6 blocks, you don't expect to move. Like, you will be stuck there. And so we utilize this with the number of people we expect in attendance as whether or not it will be an effect that will change your kind of mindset or your behavior for that day. But we also take a look from the brand's perspective. So what we find is with different industries like food and beverage versus retail versus airlines versus sports. So we have a couple big customers in each. What happens is there's specific types of events that really resonate well with your product. And so what happens is the machine will actually go and figure this out. The engine determines whether or not an event will be correlated with your type of promotion. Granted, you still have some manual control. You could say which types of events you would prefer, but essentially the whole point of having the AI do the thinking is that it can determine that beer festivals in the winter are good for pizza, but ice cream socials during the summer are better for pizzas, less than beer, right? So it figures these things out, of course, through learning. And it says that maybe people in Chicago react differently than people in San Francisco. And so maybe people in San Francisco need the outdoor, hippier events. And Chicago needs a nice, great beer festival for everyone to be interested in this sort of brand. But yes, so events is a big one, as well as holidays. So not just the major holidays, but we look at cultural holidays. So with Asian, with Chinese people, we have Chinese New Year's. With the Indians, we have Holi. So all these different things are applied to the specific people in that region. So if you're in a city that has a little bit more of a behavior that's drawn towards one of these events and these holidays, then it's applied there automatically.
I have I'm right here, sorry. Came out of nowhere. So I have a pretty loaded question. It's got 2 parts to it. So one thing, large companies, a lot of times don't like to work with startups. And I've heard lots of excuses for it. And so I'm curious to know, the first part of my question is, what's your revenue and what's your exit strategy? And when clients ask you that, because I've had clients ask me that, like, oh, are you just going to get bought by someone, or you're not big enough, like really downing you, how do you handle those questions from large organizations? And maybe you can give some insights, people here, some advice on how to handle those when their colleagues are doubting, when they want to try the newest startup tech.
Yeah, I mean, being a champion is hard in any company, and finding the champion is also hard, right? But what we found that worked really well with the big company clients that we have is going in there with a really lightweight plan and going in really baby steps. So, of course, our engine has this full-blown capability that can automate all your engagements through your, we have all these different things, but usually what we do with larger brands that we come in is we just give you a pilot impact report. It's you give us a data dump of your last 365 days of whatever you have. We'll filter through it, we'll clean it, and we'll give it back to you with a PDF report that says, here's where we think we can impact your revenue. So we can utilize weather or events or holidays, and with the upcoming months, this would be the perfect time for it. But I think with regards to how do you get it through, it's all about the baby steps. So the pilot impact report we found from our interaction with big companies, it really helps them become the champion, right? So if you are in a big company, you're trying to try new products, sometimes it's really hard to get approvals for a budget to try a full-blown system out. So in this case, we charge similar to like a market research pricing to get one of this market research to you, and then you get access to this nice report about your own data, about anomalies that's happening in there, that then you can take to your higher-ups and say, hey, look, I know you said no to trying new things last time, but look, we did no engineering resources, and we got this great insight report that's actionable, but more important, they can make it actionable for us. They can automate it to that next level without us needing to do much work. Then it really gives your person or whoever, if you are the one that's trying to sell it, this extra piece of information that can be helpful. So at least from my experience, we found that to be really helpful. We work with a couple large brands, so it's not always going to be fast, but there's steps to it. And then from revenue perspective, we're making pretty good money. We recently raised our round, and so things are good. We're hiring, so there is a new marketing team. We do have a position open, and really focused on sales. And then from an exit strategy standpoint, we're trying to get as big as we can. Our goal is not to be acquired. We've already had several offers about our temporal algorithms because it's quite unique because it takes original data sets and turns them into something that's time interval based. So you don't actually have to have your data in that format for it to work. But we haven't entertained them quite yet. We're doing pretty well in sales. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of our bigger brands have always told us they tried working with smaller startups, and by the time they get the contract through, the startup has either died or it has been acquired. So it's a tough game to play. So I think if you can find a startup that's willing to have a good expectation of where they want to be, like if they come in and they say, well, we're looking to be acquired someday, like that's probably not a good company for you to champion a product for because they might be gone by the time you can get it through legal. But if you can find a group of kind of founders that you think really believe in something, I mean, they'll help you, provide you all the right info so that you can get the deal through and you end up working really well together. So I guess that was my answer to the 3 questions.
Same question to VectorScient.
Same question. Okay. So we are pre-revenue. Pretty new, as I said, founded in 2016. But one of the lessons learned was both of us are technology driven. So we fell into the trap of when we started the company, we felt like we were doing something outside the comfort zone. But very soon we fell into the trap of doing the technology, creating all the bells and whistles, all the product features, without truly validating that with the real customers or finding the customer relationship building. So it's a great art, marketing. We are learning it painfully, but it's a great learning experience. It's fascinating. So we are teaming up. We are part of 1871 here right down the street at Merchandise Mart and a part of the Wisdom Group. So it's an accelerator. We are meeting with the right network and right team. So, as Diane is doing, we are not post-revenue, but we are also looking for some marketing help to see how we can fine-tune the message. It's all about how we can make a difference to the clients in this space. And how do people believe? So it's hard, Christy, but So that's where the challenge is, right? So with the no pedigrees from reputed colleges, but you know that what you have built into that is so unique and powerful than what's out there. So that sort of brings in the confidence from within. We have been bootstrapping, building the entire product. Pretty confident. There is no way that we will be, giving away. It's my calling and it's my purpose of life is what I think. It's not my job. I'm here to help, and I've seen companies suffering, and the science is so, as much as we think that it is there and people are talking in the buzzwords, it's still pretty far into many companies. So, the nickeling and diming, the big companies, licensing, to down to the penny, right? So we want to become their partners and, learn, understand their problem and truly help them out. It's a hard message to get through, but it's like a first job, right? It's like anything that's first. It's hard. It's like first job. It's harder than first job, actually. So once we are pretty close to, we have pipeline. We are pretty close to closing our first client. Once we have our first client, we'll say, okay, here are our champions. This is where they started, the KPIs, and here is how they got benefited. And a word coming from the clients themselves speaks in volumes. I can talk here for days together, me and Suresh. It's not going to move a centimeter, not even an inch, right? So I can say so much about it. I'm also learning how do we fine-tune the message and say it that resonates and connects with their problem. It's much about listening and, keeping ourselves in their shoes, what their challenges are, how we can do it. So we may have a Tylenol in my hand, so we can say it remedies every ailment that you have, but that doesn't resonate. If you say that I have a headache, I can say, here you go, this is what is going to help you. All I have is a Tylenol. But I cannot say all I have is Tylenol. I have to hear you first, right? So, that's sort of where we are. We are learning. We want to hear. Exit strategy, that's a good plan to have. We need to put all cards on the table. But I'm so confident that one day when we are so successful, thank you so much, Ence, because he saw the gem in us when we were nowhere. He found us on LinkedIn. He called us. He found something, some spark in us. So here we are, sharing the stage with celebrities like John and, a rock star startup founder, Diane, right? So there are people, leaders like that who see gems in when you're not successful. When I'm successful, I can be doing Forbes and all of that, and I wouldn't care, who follows me. But I will remember Ence forever.
Just one quick follow-up to that, because I'm constantly sourcing out new technology because I like it so much. And we're not a big company. We're like 120 people. So the legal process is me saying I want to buy that, and then just sending the contract over to legal, and basically they'll make a couple comments, which is great. But if you watch Silicon Valley, which you mentioned, and a startup is pitching you, and their mission statement is to make the world a better place through blah blah blah, run for the hills. But these guys have real mission statements, and it's very specific in trying to help businesses in very specific ways, right? And that's what I always look for. You guys all know, 6 or 7 years ago, when I came on board, the first tech platform I purchased was Qualtrics, and at the time, they were pretty small. I go to their client summit every year, and it doubles and it doubles and it doubles. Last 2 months ago, I think there was 3,200 people there. The first year there was like 300. And so you can kind of tell when the startup comes into pitch, whether they're in it for the long haul and whether they have something very specific that can help your business immediately, or it's kind of some pie in the sky dream. So. Do we have time for, is that it? Or?
I think we're done. We would love to listen all day.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I think, on behalf of those on the stage, now's your chance. You know who they are. You can partner with, work with, invest in, because these guys could be the next unicorns. You never know. You could be reading about them in Forbes. So thanks for sharing a little bit of your vision, sharing your story, doing it under the challenging format, and well done.
Thank you.